everybody. You get to talk, or we're both talking. So, well, we'll both be
Welcome
talking this
to
one.
our Q and A with Amish.
And a lot of you guys actually had a whole bunch of questions about her background, so we're actually gonna do a Q and A, because that's hip.
We had a whole bunch of questions come
We had
in.
a lot of
Really
questions
good.
come in, and there were some really, really good questions. So I'm gonna pull up questions and just ask you, Fannie, and I guess you can
Excuse me.
inform people as we go.
Okay. I just had to yawn.
So, question. Let's see. Amish questions. Let's
Oh wait,
see.
are we gonna do the word of the day right now?
Oh yeah, we can do the word of the day.
Fannie's word of the day.
So the word of the day is Christmas tree, because we got our Christmas tree all set up and everything. And in Pennsylvania Dutch,
It is Gristockbaum.
Gristockbaum, because
Gristock
Gristock
is
is
Christmas
Christmas
and
and
Baum.
Baum is tree.
Good
So
job, you said
if
it
you
really
want to
well.
say Christmas tree in Pennsylvania Dutch, it's Gristockbaum.
Yeah, which isn't a very popular thing to say because they don't even have Christmas.
Because they don't do Christmas trees. But we thought it'd be cool because we have one. Let's get into our questions. All right. First question. What are the Amish?
That's a very general question. The Amish are a group of people. Oh, disclaimer to all these questions. These are like what happened to me personally, and it can be very different depending on the different groups of Amish people that you're with.
Yeah.
It can vary a lot. So this is my personal experience.
But like, what are the Amish?
The Amish are a group of people that.
Can you give like a really brief, quick history lesson?
I can. They came over from Switzerland and they settled in Pennsylvania because William Penn gave them land. I think for free actually. They actually came from the Anabaptist movement in Switzerland, and they all came over here. And from that movement, there was the Hutterites, the Quakers, and the Mennonites. And then from the Mennonites, the Amish came because they didn't think that they were being strict enough. So, hence the Amish.
So there you go. That is who the Amish are. Very good question though. A lot of people have no clue.
Yeah.
Like they know the Amish are like people that have.
But it's very secretive. Like nobody knows about it.
Yeah. So that's what the Amish are. Can you join the Amish?
You can, but they really don't want you to because a lot of people, after a while, they're tired of it. They don't want to do it anymore. So then they have to excommunicate that person because they left the church. So they don't really want you to. It is possible if you are dedicated enough. Wouldn't recommend it, but yeah,
Try
it is
not
possible.
to move around, because every time you move, it's like
different lighting.
Changing the lighting. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, here's one. We actually got two really, really good questions from a friend of mine, Gabby. So first question from Gabby: how much of Fannie's Amish heritage / upbringing does she hold on to or continue to live by?
I think this would be a good one for you to actually answer.
This question was a complete surprise and caught me so off guard.
Sure, I was not expecting that.
I guess the thing.
Not really a whole lot. I mean, you still speak Dutch with your family. So, I mean, in that way, she does hold on to a decent amount of it. A lot of their like practices with not using modern technology. I mean, you use basically anything anybody else would use today. So in that way, we don't really cling on to. She doesn't really cling on to it a whole lot. She doesn't video game, which I was kind of disappointed about because I'm a big video gamer. And she would just rather sit there and watch me video game than play along with me for the most part. So
I can do Wii.
She does do the Wii and Mario Kart. So
sometimes, yeah.
We're extending her lack of Amishness there. So she uses normal technology. You do love the minimalistic aspect of it.
Yeah, like the simple lifestyle.
Very simple, not extra. I mean, it's nice to have decorations, but we don't have a huge amount.
Right. And I also like, because of my Amish upbringing, my mom obviously taught me to cook. So I do have a lot of that.
She does. She's a very good cook.
So, and I enjoy baking, and I can make my mom's cinnamon rolls, which
and cleaning. I think that's part of your Amishness.
It might be.
because she absolutely, I mentioned this in our intro video, she like absolutely loves cleaning and like de-stresses by cleaning.
Yes, when I'm stressed, I clean.
So I think part of that is just like maybe part of your culture. Like they just clean and they keep their
Well, their
houses clean
houses
and
are
everything.
always like
Spick and span.
super,
Yeah.
super clean. I don't know how they
So
do it with like 9 and 10 children, but their house is always clean. Well, they don't have a lot of stuff, so I
they
guess.
don't. And also, from Gabby, she asked, should the two of you have children down the road, would you raise your children incorporating factors of the Amish heritage traditional upbringing?
We might teach them a few Dutch words.
I would like to.
There's
I
one
mean,
phrase I
I
want to teach them.
personally would like to learn Dutch. It's a lot because she doesn't speak it a
I don't
huge.
have a place to
Yeah, like
practice
there's
it.
nowhere to actually use it, so it's harder for me to learn it. It's harder for her to use it. But I think it'd be super cool. I would like to like use Dutch as we're bringing them up, so they have a little bit of a knowledge of it, so that way I don't know they can kind of claim their heritage a little bit.
Yeah. But as
Um,
far as like, I mean, I guess I would do things a little bit differently just because my mom did things differently. Um,
what are some examples of that? Like, I guess what are some things you did as a kid that you might want your kids to do that are different than the American way?
well, number one, I feel like a lot of American kids, I'm kind of categorizing, but I feel like a lot of them are very spoiled and they're very much hooked on electronics and video games. And not saying that any of that stuff is bad, but an excess of that can be. And I guess I want my kids to learn how to have a good work ethic, which I guess that's kind of like just
That's
a
pretty good. It's
large
just a
family
good,
thing, I guess.
yeah. Well, and it's a good principle.
It's just a good principle, but I want my kids to be able to enjoy working.
Are you gonna like? Are we gonna use like Amish toys or anything?
I
I think that'd be really fun if we did.
I think that I mean I guess so. Amish toys are very simple. They don't have a lot of them. I don't think I'd give my kids Amish dolls, but
I
um
just don't like dolls in general, so kind of creepy.
that's something we're gonna have to discuss later because
Yeah.
I enjoy dolls, but
Okay.
I loved them as a child. I carried them around like real
Hello,
babies.
neighbor. Featured neighbor in the background.
But I don't know. I do things almost like everybody else would. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Like you've
guessing.
kind of adjusted to it.
Yeah. Like
I don't know. Like what's something that
my mom, while we were Amish, we didn't use like formula and stuff. But then again, neither did your mom. Like
yeah, that's kind of normal for some people too. I don't know that there's a whole lot other than teaching them a little bit of Pennsylvania Dutch. Um, I don't think we'll really
yeah, there'll be little
integrate a whole
things.
lot. I mean, maybe foods like because you
Foods,
do.
yeah,
She
definitely
does
food.
cook a lot of like Amish foods, so that's something that our kids might know a lot better than other kids because that's just normal for
Also,
us as a family.
yeah, gardening. I
And
would like to
gardening
teach my kids how to garden. Not that
because
I
the
know a lot
Amish
about it,
garden
but
like all their food.
yeah,
So
and can it.
and can it.
Yeah, that might be something I teach my kids.
Mallory asked, "Do Amish people ever get embarrassed that they live that lifestyle?" I think referring to like their simple
Just the
ways and the
simple
lack of
ways.
technology and that thing.
I remember shortly after we left that I felt embarrassed to bring up the fact that I used to be Amish, and especially the fact that I could speak two languages. For whatever reason, I was just very bashful about it. But as an Amish person, I don't think so because I guess it'd be the same if you went to another country. Like, would you be ashamed of the way of your American life? When you talk to other people about it, it's kind of the same way. They don't. That's just the way they do things. They don't really think about it. So that's kind
Yeah.
of my answer with that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Um,
Mallory.
thanks, Mal. Let's see. Any other questions? Can you visit the Amish?
Yes, I covered this in the last video a little bit. You can visit. I mean, I get. Are you talking about
Like as an
as
as
a
a
non-Amish?
non-Amish person.
Oh yes, absolutely. Like you are more than welcome. A lot of Amish will have a lot of things for sale. Like they'll do eggs. They'll have a woodworking shop, like my grandpa, or they will sell whatever. Like they're very good business people. So if you ever see eggs for sale in an Amish community, like stop by.
If you see anything for sale, other than like in the very commercialized areas, like in Lancaster area,
In
in
Ohio.
Pennsylvania and stuff. But like if you're in Wisconsin and you see Amish sold stuff,
Like, it's
especially
authentic.
food, go check it out because it's really really good stuff.
Yep.
Um,
Especially bake sales, like,
oh,
so good.
so good. Another question I don't think we had submitted, but can you talk about Rumspringa and like
Yes.
what people visualize it as and if it's actually a thing and like what it actually is if it isn't.
The correct.
And say it in Dutch.
Okay, rumspringen is how you say it. And basically, the assumptions that people have is that their parents push them out into the world when they're like 17, 18 years old and say, go have the time of your life and then come back. But like, if you think about it, no parent wants to spend 18 years of their life teaching this child all these things and then only to have them throw it away and go live out in the world.
And they have a chance, like in the concept idea that a lot of people have, they have the choice to just go and live English for their. Oh, sorry. Just to clarify, I keep saying this. So in the Amish, they refer to anything outside of the Amish as English.
Yeah, so when I talk about English people, I'm not talking about
like people from Britain.
Right, no.
It's just general American, whatever. Just
anybody that's not Amish.
anybody that's not Amish. So I keep using it because she uses it and I've picked up on it. But that's a clarification of
Yes.
that. But anyways, in the English understanding of that or the American understanding, they have the choice to leave and like just forever be non-Amish.
Right.
But
no, there's consequences. There's no parent that wants their child just to go out and live in the world. They do that, but it is not encouraged, and in movies it is very
dramatized
and romanticized, but it is not a real thing. Parents do not encourage their children to leave, and if they do leave, there are consequences. Especially if they're already a part of the church, they will be excommunicated and shunned for a certain amount of time. But yeah, some people do that. Like my great aunt, she left and she went back again. So
yeah. What is shunning, and is it something that like lasts forever, or is it just a like? Can you shorten it and have it be like a part-time thing?
Shunning is basically when you have sinned against the church rules and they will ask you to do a confession in front of the church and you say that I am sorry for committing this and you admit to that. And then the church will take up a vote and will decide what your punishment is. And if it's a simple thing, if your community doesn't allow you to smoke and you go out and smoke cigarettes, that might be a simple like 4-week excommunication period. But if you did something like, I don't know, if you commit an immoral sin, that is considered a higher thing, and you might be excommunicated for 6 to 8 weeks. It could be something as simple as driving a tractor or running a chainsaw. If that's all things that in your community that are not allowed, you cannot do those things, and you will be excommunicated if found out.
And then shunned for
And then
however long.
Yeah, and then the actual thing of shunning, sometimes it can be a vague term, but basically it means you cannot eat at the same table. So if you're at church, you get your own little corner table, which is kind of like the cone of shame in a way. Like you just get your own table. And then the other thing is you can't eat with your family either. And if you're married, you are not allowed to sleep in the same bed as your wife or husband. Um, you cannot take money directly. Like they don't allow you to pay for things. Um, I don't know.
What do you mean by that?
Like if you were to go to an Amish store and you were excommunicated, they would not take your money. But that does
so
not
you
mean
can't buy anything.
you can't buy anything. But that does not mean that you cannot just take it. Like you just can't buy it. That's all. And then the other thing is you can't. I don't know why this is a thing, but you can't hand things directly to the person. You have to lay it down on a surface, and the other person picks it up. So
almost like it's unclean coming from your fingers.
So if you had a water bottle and you were handing it to me, you had to set it down, and then I would take it.
Because just as a separation.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. And while we're on the topic, can you like explain community and like what all that entails? Like what is a community? What does it do? What does it mean? How does that affect Amish? Like do you change communities? Does it happen a lot? I guess that's a lot of questions, but
yeah. Basically a community is a group of Amish people. They have their bishop and their deacons and there's a different one. There's like elders, I think, in the church. And all of those positions have different meanings, but they have their own group. And depending on how established the community is, because sometimes they will start a new community because these people, there's not a community in this group of like, or this area of the state or whatever. So they will just start a new one up, or there was strife and stuff going on in a different one, and you're just tired of it and you want to have your own rules, so just move over here. Um, and there, I don't know how many usually there's about a dozen or so families in a community, and it can be bigger and smaller depending on it, which one it is. But for the most part, that's like the average size. And um, a community, they have their own church. Like each community has their own church service, and they take turns. They don't have a church building, so they take turns hosting church at their own house. Um, and what else does a community do? So each community has their own set of rules. A lot of them are very similar, but they have like variances. So one community might not allow chainsaws, but the next community might. But then they don't usually fellowship together because they have different rules. So, and you can move from.
That's what my next question was going to be. Do like people move a lot from communities?
Yes,
or like...
they move a lot around to community because a lot of the times there are, I guess, problems that arise in the church. Like they have a problem with whatever, with people, with rules, doesn't really matter. And then they'll just look for a community that suits
Do
what
you have
they
to get
want.
like approved to move or like to get into that Amish community?
I think they sort of have somewhat of a process because you like kind of like what today's churches do. Like when you go and take a membership at a different church, there's a letter
There's a
sent and saying that
of a
hey,
request of membership
right,
type of a thing.
yeah,
Okay.
so similar to that.
She asked if it's an oppressive culture because they have so many rules,
It can be, and
which I guess
sometimes it
she
is.
already knows, sort of. But
Yeah,
it was just she was submitting questions for the video, so
right. It is an oppressive culture because they want to keep their people dumbed down, so they don't allow them to go out and get a higher education than 8 grades. Whether you're going to be a teacher, a farmer, even sometimes
basically
a dentist,
like any occupation.
like they just don't have higher training for it. And if you're skilled in that field, then you are going to go into that field. But if you're not, you find other things to do. Um, they just don't have higher education.
Another question: what, like your occupation, is that chosen by you or by the community, or is it a given thing?
It depends.
Like as you're born?
It depends on your family a lot, honestly. Like my grandpa had a woodworking shop, but none of his boys ended up going into that. I mean, they all know about it and know how to do it, but none of them ended up. Your most given occupation is a farmer, just because they use a lot. Like they have their own milk usually from a cow, and you can hardly go to an Amish farm without having like some kind of animals, like chickens, cats, dogs, goats, sheep, like something. They always have animals. Um, so most of the time they have some sort of like little hobby farm, whether that is like solely focused on farming or that's just because they have to have it like for living and stuff. Because they live off their own eggs and have their own milk, and sometimes they have their own meat too. Pigs is also a big thing.
Yeah. Are they given to you, or do
Yeah.
you get to pick them?
So most of the time you get to pick them, but most of the time it's also it depends on
There's not
if
a lot
you're
to choose
skilled.
from, too.
No, if you're skilled in that area, and if your father maybe had a business that he's passing down to you, or I don't know, you just happen to start your own business. I don't know. It just really
So it's
depends.
pretty similar to the American culture.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of choose what you want to do and then pursue after that. But in
Pretty
some
much.
ways, you can inherit a business or
Yeah.
just be really good at it. But it's not like actually given to you, like you are going to be this. So along the line of, is your occupation chosen for you? Do they have arranged marriages?
That is a very popular belief, and I think in some communities that is a thing, but where I grew up and came from, that's not a thing. You can choose your partner. Um, they want you to go out and choose your own partner.
Do they date?
They do date. They have a very different process than um, normal Americans do. But usually, so they have church only every other Sunday. So, on the Sundays that they have church, they will have regular church service in the morning, which is about 3 hours long, and then in the evening they have something called a singing, and that is when the young people from the church and the youth group, and that is anywhere from age like 17, I think. It depends on the community at what age, but most of the time at 17 to pretty much whenever you get married. But I think at 30 years old you get kicked out automatically because then you are deemed no longer their age and you're kind of an old maid or an old, I don't know what the counterpart for that is.
I don't know, bachelor for life.
Yeah, bachelor. Yeah, you're just kind of you're kind of deemed single for life, and it's kind of a miracle that you get married after that point. Um, but the way they date is they on Sunday nights after the singing thing is over, so they sing for close to 2 hours, and they will sing out of little hymn books, especially for that occasion. And after that's over, the guys will go out and hitch up their buggies, and then they will come back. I personally don't know how they tell the buggies apart because to me they all look similar. Like all of them are built the same way. So to me, I don't know how they know whose buggy is whose. But the man, if he is interested in a young lady, he will go and ask one of his guy friends to go ask the girl if she'll go on a date with him.
Instead of asking
Yeah,
her.
I don't know why that's a thing, but they don't ever directly ask them. Um, so the
So what do
girl,
they ask them?
they say, "Would you go out on a date with this person?"
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's pretty direct.
It's pretty direct. You just don't ask it
Through a
yourself.
buddy.
Yeah. So anyway, they if the girl says yes, the guys can report back to the guy and tell him that the girl said yes. And so he brings his buggy by, and somehow she knows that it's his buggy. So she hops in his buggy and he takes her home. And usually by the time the singing is over, it's probably like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So then they head back to their parents' house, which usually takes about a good half hour, maybe longer, depending on where you live in the community and where church was that day. Um, so then you go home to the girl's parents, and it depends on the household because some parents have very strict rules, some parents don't care. So like my parents, I think they had a rule that the light had to be on, um, and then they would stay up. And some people are allowed up in the girl's bedroom. Um, I don't think that was the case in my community, or my parents would not have let me do that. Um, but then they literally just talk all night, and then they say goodbye in the wee hours of the morning, and the guy drives home, and that was their date for the next 2 weeks. And you don't like Americans, they go out to the movies, they get dinner together, or they'll go rollerblading, or like whatever. You go out and do a like an activity together for a date. But the Amish don't do that. They just have their every 2 week date. And so if they like each other and they want to continue, they'll do that again. And so then once the couple's going steady, everybody, that's what they call it. They call it going steady.
It's kind of an old-fashioned term.
It is. So then after that, everybody knows that they're an item and that they're a couple. So then they're waiting for the engagement process. So
Gotcha. Cool.
that's how dating works.
Neat. Do Amish only wear black clothes?
Absolutely not. They like color just as well as anybody else. It depends on the community because a lot of the communities are very strict on the type of material you get, so it can't be patterned at all. But you can have darker colors. You can have this color. Not you can have orange. They will wear that to
Blaze
go
orange.
hunting, but that's it. Um, so like I don't know if you can see the red back here, but kind of a red well,
Like
might
a
have to be a
candy
little
red?
bit darker
Darker.
red, like dark red, brown, gray, dark blue.
So like
Sometimes a
earthier
sky,
colors?
yeah. Sometimes a sky blue, no pink or yellow. Sometimes you'll see that in like Ohio, Indiana, or Pennsylvania, but where I grew up, that was not allowed. You'll have green, darker green. Um,
What about like buttons and snaps and stuff? Is that like forbidding totally?
they can have buttons. Some communities, they're not allowed to have elastic. Um, so for underwear, that kind of sucks, but you learn to live with it.
Make do, I guess.
But buttons are pretty much they're allowed all around, and they'll have hooks and eyes for like their coats and stuff like that. They make their coats.
Do they sew all their clothing? Like
Yep.
everything they wear?
Pretty much, except for like maybe undergarments, they don't. But pretty much everything else. But my grandma sewed their undergarments, so
Okay.
it depends. You can buy it, but mostly it's supposed to be white or black.
For undergarments?
Yeah, they're like socks have to be black, and the rest of your underwear kind of has to be white. If you have colored, it's very looked down on. You don't want to hang that out when you're in your clothesline for everybody to see.
As for like electronics and like lights and that kind of a thing, what do they do for people that don't have electricity? And like, do some people have electricity that they use lights and stuff in their houses?
If you move into a house that is not your own and you are renting, you are allowed to have electricity for as long as you live there. If you move into a house and you buy it, you are in the community I grew up in. You are allowed to keep the electricity for 1 year, and after that point, it becomes a sin.
So you have to get rid of it, or just not hook it up or something.
Yeah.
Do they use like electricity for heat?
No, they usually have a wood stove in their house, and that's their main source of heat. I can't really think of anything else they use. Wood stove is pretty much it.
All their cooking, is that electric? Like, do they have
That
electric
is
stoves?
done on the wood stove.
Okay.
That takes quite a skill to learn how to regulate the temperature of your oven and stuff. And their hot water also comes from that. Usually they have a reservoir sitting on the back of their stove that the water is just always hot. And that's how they take baths. That's how they do laundry.
Do they shower? Like,
they do not shower. They take baths.
Okay.
And that's once a week. And usually they drag a bathtub into the kitchen and kind of close it off somehow. And all the family takes baths in there. They don't really have a bathroom in the house because they have their sink where you wash your hands out in the open, and then they have their outhouse outside, and then they have their bathtub when they bring it out. So
nice. Cool.
Yeah, if you go to an Amish home, most likely they don't really have a bathroom unless it was a house that was
Pre-existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't build it.
So, anyways, that is a decent amount of the questions, and if we continue to do so, this video is going to be super long, and nobody's ever going to actually watch the end.
Nope.
So
we should end it.
We're gonna finish today with that. If you have more questions or want to see more, we can do a part 2. We can make this a whole series. We actually might be getting her parents to do like an interview type thing. So if you guys would like that, let us know. It would be super fun. Be a little difficult because they're pretty far away.
Surprise, mom and dad.
Yeah, surprise. We haven't told you yet, so. But yeah, so if you want more, let us know. Give us more questions. We're happy to talk about it.
Yeah, and also if anybody out there is ex-Amish and watching this, like, I'm sorry if I've completely butchered this. I was 7 when we left, so I sometimes don't have all the answers. But if you guys do have a question and I have no idea, I will ask someone who does know.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're so happy you guys are joining us today, and
I hope you enjoyed
this. If you want to see more content about the Amish or about some other topic that we could do, be sure to subscribe and comment and let us know. We would be happy to do basically anything.
Yeah, just as long as it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah, because we're broke. So as long as it's cheap and we can figure it out, we're good.
Pretty much.
No, but seriously, if you have anything that you think would be super cool for us to do, let us know. We'd love to do it for you. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.